Jake Grayson had always convinced himself that he worked best under pressure. Deadlines were mere suggestions, alarms were meant to be snoozed, and procrastination was his most reliable, if reckless, strategy. That is, until everything collapsed in a single, catastrophic day, fired from his job for missing a critical client pitch. Dumped by Amanda, who had finally grown tired of his half-finished plans and empty promises. Evicted from his apartment after forgetting to pay rent for 3 months in a row, sitting in a dingy, late-night diner, staring at a cup of coffee he couldn't afford, Jake felt his life unraveling. That was when he found the book, or, perhaps, the book found him. Its leather cover was cracked with age, its title embossed in faded gold, The Ultimate Secret to Productivity. Inside, crisp yellowed pages whispered promises of structure, discipline, and control. At first, it seemed like every other self-help guide, bullet points on time management, strategies for breaking bad habits. But when he reached the end of the last chapter, something strange happened. The book fell from his hands, landing open on the floor, revealing a hidden section he swore hadn't been there before. The words on the page pulsed as if alive. Productivity isn't about doing more, it's about controlling time itself. The moment Jake read those words, a wave of exhaustion slammed into him. His vision blurred, the diner lights flickered, and a sharp ringing filled his ears. He squeezed his eyes shut for what felt like seconds, only to open them in a completely different place. He was back in his apartment, but something was off. His laptop was still open to the unfinished work presentation, unread emails piling up in his inbox. The clock on the wall read 7:42 a.m., 2 days ago. Disoriented, Jake stumbled to his phone. It showed the same date. He flipped through his text messages. Amanda hadn't dumped him yet. His boss hadn't fired him. His eviction notice hadn't arrived. Had he dreamed everything? A mental breakdown from stress? No. He knew it had happened. But somehow, it hadn't happened yet. Then, like a gambler testing his luck, Jake began to experiment. He worked on his presentation early. He responded to emails. He even set up a romantic dinner for Amanda, something he'd promised 100 times but never followed through on. And for the first time in years, he was ahead of the game. It worked. He had beaten the system, or so he thought. The first sign that something was wrong was subtle. When he checked the clock later that night, he could have sworn it had jumped forward 2 hours in the blink of an eye. His phone's battery, though fully charged minutes ago, was suddenly at 10%. The TV played news from a different day entirely. Then, the real horror began. The more Jake used his newfound power, the more time fought back. If he wasted a moment, scrolling through social media, watching a pointless video, minutes would vanish instantly. If he hesitated on an important task, entire hours would blur past him. One night, he lost control entirely. He sat down to work on his project but allowed himself a short nap. When he awoke, the clock had jumped 3 days forward. His phone was flooded with furious messages. His boss had fired him again. Amanda had broken up with him again. His eviction notice was pinned to his door again. No matter how many times he tried to fix things, time had a way of snapping back, worse than before. It was as if the universe was punishing him for every second wasted. And that's when Jake realized the truth. This wasn't a gift, it was a curse. Time was no longer his to waste. If he didn't learn to control it, it would control him, until there was nothing left of him at all. Jake Grayson had never been one for research. Deadlines, exams, and reports were always last-minute scrambles. But now, with his sanity at stake, he had no choice. The book, The Ultimate Secret to Productivity, wasn't just an old self-help guide. It was a weapon. A dangerous, reality-warping force that someone, somewhere, had written with intent. And if someone created this, then surely, they had answers. He flipped to the very last page, hoping for an author's name, a publisher, something. Instead, he found a name he'd never seen before, no first name. No last name. No credentials. Just the timekeeper. He tried searching online, but nothing came up. No references, no historical records. Even the book itself, there was no ISBN, no mention in any digital archives. It was as if it didn't exist, and yet, here it was. But something was even stranger. The more Jake stared at the name, the more familiar it felt. As if he had read it before. As if it had always been lingering at the edges of his mind. Desperate for more, Jake combed through the book page by page. That's when he noticed something odd. Tiny, almost imperceptible scribbles filled the margins of certain pages, written in a frantic, jagged script, messages that hadn't been printed but added by someone before him. This is not a tool. It's a trap. You are not the first. He is watching. The final note was half erased, smeared as if someone had written it in a hurry. Find the others before he finds you. A chill ran through Jake's spine. Others? He slammed the book shut. His apartment, once just a mess of half-finished projects and old takeout boxes, now felt suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. He wasn't alone in this. He wasn't the first, and if this timekeeper was real, if he was watching, then Jake was already in more danger than he had ever imagined. That night, Jake didn't sleep. He stayed up, flipping through the book, watching time slip and jump in ways he no longer controlled. The book had stopped obeying him. Hours would stutter forward randomly, punishing him even for momentary distractions. It wasn't just accelerating his life anymore, it was testing him, and then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., his phone rang. No caller ID. No number. Just static. Jake hesitated before answering, heart pounding. For a long moment, there was nothing but the soft hum of white noise. Then, a voice. Low. Unnatural. More like a whisper stretched across an impossible distance. You shouldn't have opened the last page, Jake. The line went dead. Jake sat frozen, the phone still pressed against his ear. Whoever the timekeeper was, he knew Jake had found him. And now, there was no turning back. Jake had been avoiding Amanda's calls ever since time started slipping through his fingers. He couldn't risk it, not when his life was unraveling at an unpredictable speed, but then, she showed up at his door. It was late, past midnight, and Jake was sitting in the dark, staring at the cursed book as if it might whisper another warning. A knock jolted him back to reality. 3 slow, deliberate taps. He hesitated before opening the door. Amanda stood there, looking too calm for someone who had left him only days ago. Her dark eyes scanned him like she was searching for something, her lips curling into a knowing smirk. You look like you've seen a ghost. Jake's stomach twisted. The last time he'd spoken to her, before time reset, she had been furious, exhausted with his endless cycle of excuses. But now, there was no anger. No sadness. Just amusement, as if she already knew how this was going to play out. She walked in without waiting for an invitation, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. She moved through the apartment like she had been there 1,000 times before, which, of course, she had. In the past timeline, I wanted to check on you, she said, settling onto the couch. I had a feeling you might be struggling. A feeling? Jake echoed, his voice unsteady. Amanda tilted her head, as if testing his reaction. I know about the book, Jake. His blood ran cold. He wanted to deny it, to act confused, but her expression made it clear that she wasn't guessing. She knew. How could you possibly? She reached into her bag and pulled out something small and familiar. A photo. Jake's breath hitched. It was a picture of them, him and Amanda, sitting in a cafe, laughing. But something was wrong. Jake had never seen this photo before. He wasn't even wearing clothes he owned, and yet, there he was, grinning next to Amanda like they had lived an entirely different life. "We've done this before," Amanda whispered. "And if you don't listen to me, you're going to make the same mistakes all over again." Jake's mind spiraled. How much did she know? How many times had they gone through this? "Why are you here, Amanda?" he asked, his voice sharp now. She leaned forward, her gaze locking onto his. "To help you." Jake wanted to believe her. But then he saw it, the flicker of something behind her eyes. Not concern. Not love. Control. She wasn't here to help, she was here because she needed something from him. "You know how this ends, don't you?" he said slowly. Amanda's smirk deepened. "I know exactly how this ends. The question is, do you?" And with that, she left, her perfume lingering in the air, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. He wasn't just trapped in time, he was being played, and Amanda was already 5 moves ahead. Jake had barely recovered from Amanda's cryptic warning when his world tilted again. This time, it wasn't time skipping ahead. It was something worse, a meeting. One that hadn't been on his calendar. One that shouldn't have existed at all. He was sitting at a coffee shop, nursing his growing paranoia with caffeine, when a man slid into the seat across from him. He was tall, sharply dressed, with the kind of confidence that didn't need an introduction. But Jake recognized him anyway. CEO of Crane Industries. A billionaire. A power player. A man who had climbed to the top of the corporate world in record time. Too fast. Jake's stomach twisted with realization. "He's like me." Victor stirred his coffee with deliberate slowness, watching Jake with an almost amused expression. "It took you long enough," he said. Jake frowned. "To do what?" Victor chuckled, shaking his head. "To realize that you're not special." Victor Crane had been using the book for years. He had mastered it, bent time to his will, learned every loophole, every trick. Where Jake struggled, Victor thrived. "I had my first reset when I was 22, Victor mused, sipping his coffee. "I was broke, one bad deal away from losing everything. Then I found the book. And now?" He gestured around them, as if the entire city belonged to him. "I rewrote my future." Jake's hands curled into fists. "You're saying you cheated your way to the top?" Victor smirked. "Cheated? No. I optimized. That's what productivity really is, Jake. It's not about doing more, it's about doing the right things, at the right time. And I never waste a second." Jake felt sick. Victor hadn't just used the book, he had weaponized it. While Jake was scrambling to fix his life, Victor had spent years perfecting the art of time manipulation, turning himself into an unstoppable force. "And now that you've stumbled into the game," Victor continued, leaning forward, "I have to decide what to do with you." A chill ran through Jake's spine. "He's not here to recruit me. He's here to warn me, you don't belong in this world, Jake," Victor said, his voice smooth but edged with steel. "You don't have the discipline. The instinct. The willpower." He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "And more importantly, you don't have the stomach to do what it takes." Jake swallowed hard. "And what exactly does it take?" Victor's smile widened. "Whatever's necessary." He stood, straightening his jacket. "You have 2 choices, Jake. You can keep fumbling through time like an amateur and let it consume you. Or..." He tilted his head. "You can stop. Right now. Walk away before it's too late." Jake's pulse pounded. "And if I don't?" Victor's smirk faded. "Then I'll make sure you don't get another reset." With that, he walked away, leaving Jake breathless, his mind racing. He had thought the book was his secret weapon. He had thought he was ahead, but Victor Crane had already won this game. And if Jake didn't find a way to beat him, he wouldn't live long enough to try again. Jake barely slept. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Victor Crane's words over and over. "You don't get another reset." The message was clear. Victor wasn't just threatening him, he was warning him. But against what? Against himself? Against the book? Against something even worse. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his alarm clock, 6:30 a.m. It was wrong. Jake never set his alarm for 6:30 a.m. Ever. He frowned, reaching for his phone. The lock screen showed the date, Thursday, March 28th. His stomach clenched. No, yesterday had been March 28th, yesterday was Thursday. Jake shot out of bed, his heart hammering. He grabbed his laptop, checking his emails. Messages he had already read were marked as unread. Conversations he had just had were gone. His text history had reset to 2 days ago. Reality had slipped. This wasn't like before, when he controlled the resets. This wasn't a simple rewind, something was rewriting itself without him. Shaken, Jake left his apartment, needing air. The city should have been the same. It always had been before, but it wasn't. The coffee shop he visited every morning? Gone. Replaced by a hardware store. The barista who always knew his order? Didn't recognize him. "Sorry, man," the guy said, giving Jake a blank look. "Have we met?" Jake felt like he had been punched in the gut. He turned, bumping into someone. "Hey, watch it, man." Jake froze. It was his best friend, except it wasn't. The man had Leo's voice, Leo's mannerisms. But not his face. "You okay, dude?" the stranger, not Leo, asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Jake stumbled back, his breath coming in short gasps. This wasn't possible. Leo had been his best friend since college. They had countless memories together. And yet, the man standing in front of him was someone completely different. Same past. Same life. Same friendship, different person. Jake turned and ran. Back at his apartment, he tore through the book, looking for answers. There had to be a rule about this. A warning. A something. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages, until he saw it, a passage that had never been there before. The longer one wields time, the weaker the foundation becomes. Reality is clay, not stone. Mold it too much, and it will break. Jake's throat went dry. This wasn't just his life falling apart. The world itself was starting to crack, and the worst part, it wasn't stopping. Jake had been running from one nightmare to another, but nothing prepared him for this. Time had started slipping out of his control, rewriting people, places, and events like a corrupted file trying to repair itself. But there was something worse lurking beneath it all, something coming for him. It started with the shadows. He first noticed it in his apartment, a flicker at the edge of his vision, a silhouette standing just beyond the hallway. The moment he turned, it was gone. Then, the city changed again. But not like before. This time, he wasn't in control of the shift. 1 second, he was walking through the crowded streets of New York. The next, the entire city was empty. No people. No sounds. Just a vast, silent version of the world where everything looked faded, drained of color. The sky was a dull gray, the buildings dark silhouettes against an endless horizon. Then came the whisper, "You have taken what is not yours." Jake spun around. No one. A chill crawled down his spine. Time must be repaid. The voice was not human. It was ancient, a soundless vibration that sent ice through his veins. And then he saw it, a figure, tall and thin, wrapped in shifting darkness. No face, no eyes, just the overwhelming sensation that it was looking right at him, the time debt collector. Jake stumbled backward, but the figure did not move. It did not chase. It simply was. I don't understand, Jake whispered. "Who are you?" The collector tilted its head, as if the question was irrelevant. "You have borrowed time, Jake Grayson. And now, the balance is due." Jake's heart pounded. The resets. The rewinds. The changes, every second he had taken from time, every moment he had stolen, had built up a debt. And now, time wanted something in return. "What do you want from me?" Jake demanded. The shadows around the figure shifted, warping the space around it. The street beneath Jake's feet cracked, as if the world itself was rejecting him. "Equal exchange." Jake's mind reeled. "Equal exchange? You have extended your time," the collector murmured. "Now, another's must be cut short." Jake's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about him, it was about someone else. If he didn't surrender the time he had stolen, the universe would take it from someone else. Someone he cared about, and Jake had no idea who. The collector took a step forward, and the world shuddered. One cycle remains. No more delays. Jake felt an invisible force wrap around him, yanking him out of the void. The next thing he knew, he was back in his apartment, gasping for air, his hands shaking violently. The collector took a step forward, and the world shuddered. One cycle remains. No more delays. Jake felt an invisible force wrap around him, yanking him out of the void. The next thing he knew, he was back in his apartment, gasping for air, his hands shaking violently. His phone buzzed. A new text message. "Leo, dude, weirdest thing. Woke up feeling sick as hell. Like, can't move sick. Ever had that?" Jake stared at the screen, his chest tightening. The debt was being collected, and Leo was just began. Jake didn't go outside for 2 days. He barely ate. Barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it, the time debt collector, standing in the void, whispering about equal exchange, and Leo, Jake had called him, visited his apartment. His best friend was wasting away, growing weaker by the hour. Doctors were baffled. No infections. No diseases. Just draining. Jake knew why. "This is my fault." But there had to be a way to fix it. A loophole. A way to repay time without losing anyone else, and so, he went to the only person who could help. Not Amanda, not Victor, Leo. Jake burst into Leo's apartment, his pulse hammering. "I need to tell you something," he began, already trying to form the words. "It's going to sound insane, but..." Leo looked up from his couch. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow. But his eyes, sharp, too sharp. "I already know, Jake," Leo said quietly. Jake froze. "Know what?" Leo let out a slow, humorless laugh. "About the book. About time. About the collector." A chill spread through Jake's chest. "How do you?" Leo leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Because I knew before you did." Jake's stomach dropped. Leo had known? Before him, you knew about the book? Jake whispered. Leo tilted his head, watching Jake like a puzzle he had already solved. "I knew you'd find it. Eventually." Jake stumbled back a step, his mind racing. "You, wait. No. That doesn't make sense. You were surprised when was I?" Leo interrupted, his voice cool, and suddenly, Jake remembered, the slight hesitations. The odd comments. The moments when Leo had been too quick to accept Jake's insane explanations. The way he had always just happened to be there when Jake needed help. Leo hadn't been surprised by anything. Because he had been watching. You were working with Victor, Jake realized, the words tasting like poison. Leo sighed, rubbing his temple. "With" is a strong word. More like keeping an eye on you. Making sure you didn't break anything too badly. Jake clenched his fists. "You were spying on me," Leo shrugged. "Call it whatever makes you feel better, man. Why?" Finally, Leo's expression changed. He winced, like the answer actually hurt, because Victor's right, Jake. His voice was quiet. You're reckless. You don't think. You're trying to play a game without knowing the rules. And people are dying because of it. Jake's breath hitched. Leo's sickness. The time debt. The world cracking at the seams. You're saying this is my fault. I'm saying you never should have had the book in the first place. And then, the final blow, I told Victor the moment you found it. Jake's vision blurred. Leo had been his best friend. The one person he thought he could trust, but he had never been on Jake's side, and now, Jake was completely alone. Betrayed. Hunted. Running out of time, literally, Jake didn't know where to go. He couldn't trust Amanda. Leo had been working with Victor all along. And the time debt collector? It was waiting, lurking, inching closer with every passing second. He needed answers. A way to break free. A way to win, and then, he met her. It happened in the strangest way. Just like everything else lately, Jake was hiding out in a late-night diner, flipping through the book, desperately searching for something, anything, that could help him undo the damage he had done. The coffee was cold, the neon lights flickering above him, his mind spinning with impossible problems. Then she sat down across from him. You're looking in the wrong chapter. Jake's head snapped up. The woman staring at him was beautiful in an effortless way, dark eyes full of something deep, something knowing. She looked at him the way no one ever had, like she already knew him. He swallowed. I'm sorry, do we? She smiled, not yet. But we will. Evelyn, the girl from the future, her name was Evelyn Carter, and she knew everything. About the book. About Victor. About the way time was falling apart at the seams, and about him. Jake could barely breathe as she spoke, her voice calm, steady, like she had practiced this conversation before. I've met you before, Jake. More times than I can count. I know everything about you, your past, your mistakes, even your future. Jake tensed. My future? Evelyn hesitated, then said, yes. And it's a disaster. She told him the truth. The horrible, impossible truth. Jake wasn't breaking time, he was trapped in it, a loop. One that he had been caught in for longer than he could possibly imagine. No matter what he did, no matter how many times he tried to fix things, it always ended the same way. With him losing, you never figure it out in time, Evelyn whispered. You always get caught in the same mistakes. You always trust the wrong people. She looked away. You always die. Jake's heart nearly stopped. I die? Evelyn didn't answer. She just met his eyes, something deeply sad behind hers. Not this time, she finally said. That's why I came back. Can he trust her? Jake wanted to believe her. Every instinct screamed at him that she was telling the truth. But how could he? Everyone who had ever claimed to help him had betrayed him. Amanda. Leo. Victor, and yet. There was something about Evelyn, something real, something that made him want to believe. How do I break the loop? He asked. Evelyn exhaled, looking down at the book on the table. By doing the one thing you've never done before, Jake. She looked at him, her gaze unwavering. Stop running. Jake had spent his entire life running, from deadlines, from responsibility, from consequences. And now, according to Evelyn, that was exactly why he was stuck. The loop wasn't just about time resets, it was about him. Something about the way he handled things, his choices, his actions, was keeping him trapped in an endless cycle. No matter how many times he tried to fix his mistakes, he always failed. And worse? He never remembered failing, until now, because this time, Evelyn had come back. This time, she was here to make him remember. How many times? Jake's voice was hoarse. How many times have I done this? Evelyn hesitated. Then, thousands. Jake felt the floor disappear beneath him, That's not possible, it is. You just never get far enough to remember, his hands clenched into fists. Then tell me how to break it. Evelyn shook her head. That's the problem. I can't, Jake blinked. What? Every time I've tried to tell you directly, the loop resets before you can act. Something. Or someone doesn't want you to escape. Jake's blood turned to ice. Something was keeping him trapped here. Not just the book, not just his own mistakes, but an actual force working against him. Victor, Jake whispered. Evelyn exhaled sharply. Maybe. But I don't think he's the one pulling the strings. He's just another player in the game. Jake swallowed hard. Then who's running it? Evelyn's face darkened. I don't know. But if we don't figure it out before the next reset, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to, Jake understood. If they failed this time, the loop would erase everything again, and next time? There might not be an Evelyn to help him. The final clue, desperate for answers, Jake and Evelyn retraced every step of his journey, his first reset, the discovery of the book, his run-ins with Victor, the betrayal of Leo, the terrifying visit from the time debt collector, and finally, something clicked. The collector's words, one cycle remains. No more delays, it had known. Jake's resets weren't infinite, they were running out. The book, Evelyn murmured. It's a test. Jake turned to her. A test? Think about it. Victor has the book, but he hasn't been erased. Leo knew about it, but he was never caught in the loop. The only one suffering resets over and over is you. Jake felt his pulse pound in his skull. Then what am I being tested for? Evelyn hesitated. Survival. Jake's breath caught. If I fail this time, if I don't break the cycle, then what? Evelyn's expression was grim. Then you don't come back at all. And just like that, Jake realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't just about learning a lesson. This wasn't about time fixing itself. This was a final attempt to see if Jake deserved to exist at all, and if he lost this time, he was gone forever. Jake had spent so much time trying to fix things, trying to outthink time itself. But now, as he stood with Evelyn in the flickering remnants of a collapsing reality, he finally understood. This wasn't a puzzle he could solve. There were no more resets, no more do-overs. This was the end. Tell me the truth, Jake said, his voice hoarse. How does this really end? Evelyn hesitated, and that pause told him everything. Jake, I die, don't I? Her expression tightened. Not if you make the right choice, Jake exhaled. And what is that? Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, he saw the depth of sorrow in her eyes. You have to let go. Not erase. Rewrite. Jake barely heard her. His mind was screaming. He had fought so hard. Survived so much. He had finally learned how to control time, and now he had to give it up. What happens if I don't? He whispered. Evelyn closed her eyes. Then the loop resets. And this time, you don't come back. The final choice. Jake looked at the book in his hands. The cursed thing that had brought him here, it had ruined his life, but it had also saved him. And now, it was demanding the ultimate price. The world around him shuddered. The sky cracked like glass. The collector was coming, its shadow stretching across reality, ready to claim its final debt. Jake, you don't have much time, Evelyn urged. He swallowed hard. His chest ached. What happens to you if I do this? Evelyn's expression softened. I don't know. This is the first time you've ever gotten this far. Jake forced a small, bitter smile. Great. No pressure, the collector's voice rumbled through the void. Time's up. Jake closed his eyes. He thought about every mistake. Every failure. Every version of himself that had come before. And he realized, he had been fighting for the wrong thing all along. It was never about winning. It was about moving forward. Jake took a deep breath. Then, he ripped the book apart. The moment the pages tore, reality exploded. the loop unraveled. The weight of endless failures lifted. The sky turned to light, and everything, disappeared, including him. A new beginning. Jake woke up to sunlight. His heart pounded as he sat up, gasping for air. He was in his apartment. His old, messy, normal apartment. The book was gone. The loop was over. And then, a knock at the door. Jake stood, his hands shaking as he opened it. Evelyn stood there, smiling softly. "Hey, stranger," she said. Jake let out a breathless laugh. "Do I know you?" Evelyn tilted her head. "Not yet," and just like that, his life truly began.